16 missed calls from my kid's school. I'm thinking active shooter, hospital, something catastrophic. Nope. She threw up, just regular throw up. And because I didn't answer even though I told them to call my husband, they claimed I abandoned her and called CPS. Wait, what? But here's the weird part. No one actually called CPS. And it gets so much stranger from here. Okay, so here's the setup. Mom has a 7-year-old daughter who just started school last month. And from day one, Mom made something very, very clear to the front office. Like crystal clear, do not call me on Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays. I work. I literally cannot have my phone on me. It's not allowed. So if something happens, call her dad. He works overnight, but he's home all day. That's the plan. That's what they were told. Explicitly, right? Seems simple enough. Well, Mom gets to her lunch break today. She checks her phone. And what does she see? 16 missed calls from the school. 16. Her heart just drops. I mean, wouldn't yours? She immediately assumes the worst. Like active shooter worst. Hospital worst. Something so horrible that they would call the parent they were explicitly told not to call 16 times. So she calls back before even checking her voicemail. Frantic, hands shaking. And here's what they tell her. Her daughter threw up. That's it, throw up, not blood, not some medical emergency. Just regular kid throw up. Wait, what? And because Mom didn't answer those 16 calls, which, remember, she wasn't supposed to get in the first place, this woman at the school considers it abandonment. Abandonment. And she says she made a call to CPS. Let me just pause there. Mom did everything right. She gave clear instructions. Dad is the primary contact. She can't have her phone. She's working. And somehow, the school decides that the correct response to a kid throwing up is to blow up the mom's phone 16 times, ignore the dad completely, and then threaten a CPS investigation for abandonment. For a kid who threw up and was sitting in the nurse's office, here's where it gets frustrating. Mom asks them, "Did you call my husband?" "Nope, just me. And I didn't answer." That's the crime, apparently. Not that they failed to follow basic instructions. Not that they ignored the father completely. No, the problem is that Mom, who told them not to call, didn't answer. So now she's standing there on her lunch break, hearing that CPS might be involved because her kid got sick at school. For something that could have been resolved with one call to the dad. One. But they didn't make that call. They called her 16 times instead. And here's the thing that really gets me. The dad was home all day. If they had just called him like they were supposed to, he would have picked up their daughter in 20 minutes, and that would have been the end of it. No panic, no CPS, no Reddit post. But instead, they created this whole nightmare because someone decided that Mom must be available at all times, regardless of what she told them. So yeah, Mom is freaking out. She calls her husband. He goes to the school immediately, and when he gets there, there's a woman sitting with their daughter in the nurse's office. Someone they've never been introduced to, not the teacher, not the admin, just some woman. And as soon as the dad walks in, she scurries off, doesn't say hello, doesn't identify herself, just vanishes. The front desk woman then tells him, and I quote, "I called someone about your wife abandoning your daughter. And if it happens again, it'll be a lot more serious. And that mom should always be there when her kid needs her." Now, stop and think about that for a second. A CPS agent just happens to be hanging around this school all day, and then doesn't bother to stick around when the parent actually shows up. No follow-up, no questions, no lecture, they just leave. Come on, Mom is convinced the school lied. They don't like that dad is the primary contact. And honestly, after hearing this, you can't blame her. So the dad gets the call. He heads straight to the school to pick up their daughter. And when he walks in, there's this woman sitting with the kid in the nurse's office. Just sitting there. Now here's the thing. This woman wasn't their daughter's teacher. She wasn't an administrator. They'd never even met her. Not during orientation night, not in any emails, nothing. She's a complete stranger to this family. And as soon as the dad walks through that door, she gets up and scurries off. Like literally leaves, no introduction. No, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, I was just keeping her company." Nothing, just poof, gone. Okay, red flag number one. So the dad goes to the front desk. He's confused. He asks the woman there, "Hey, who was that sitting with my daughter?" And the front desk woman's response, she doesn't give a name. She doesn't explain. She says, and I'm quoting directly from the mom's post, "I called someone about your wife abandoning your daughter." Wait, what? Abandoning? The kid threw up. She was in the nurse's office. The mom was at work. The dad came to get her. Where is the abandonment? Then the front desk woman doubles down. She tells the dad that if this happens again, it'll be a lot more serious. And then she says they should consider making sure mom's always there when her kid needs her. Let that sink in for a second. The school had explicit, written instructions to call the dad. He is the primary contact. The mom cannot have her phone on her during work hours. And yet, this woman is essentially saying that the mom should ignore her job, ignore her own instructions, and just be available 24/7 because. Why? Because she's the mom. In what year is this? And here's the thing that doesn't make any sense. If they were truly worried about abandonment, why didn't they call the dad? He was listed. He was available. He came as soon as he found out. That's not abandonment. That's a parent responding to an emergency the moment they're notified. The only reason he wasn't notified sooner is because the school refused to call him. So the dad is standing there, probably confused and frustrated, and this front desk woman is lecturing him about how his wife needs to be more present. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman who was sitting with their daughter has completely vanished. No explanation, no follow-up, nothing. Now, the mom's theory. She thinks the school lied about calling CPS, because think about it. A CPS agent just happens to be hanging around the school all day, waiting for a mom to not answer her phone so they can intervene over a kid throwing up. And then that same CPS agent doesn't bother to speak to the dad when he arrives, doesn't ask any questions, doesn't even introduce themselves. They just leave. That's not how CPS works. CPS is overwhelmed. They don't have agents sitting in schools waiting for minor incidents. And if they did respond to a call, they would absolutely talk to the parent who showed up. They would ask questions. They would document things. They wouldn't scurry off like a raccoon caught in a trash can. So yeah, the mom is convinced this was never about actual abandonment. This was about someone at the school not liking that the dad is the primary contact. Someone who thinks moms should always be the one to drop everything, regardless of what the family has actually requested. And that person decided to scare this family by threatening CPS. The front desk woman's comment about making sure mom's always there pretty much confirms it, right? That's not a neutral statement. That's a judgment. That's someone imposing their own beliefs about parenting onto a family that had clear legal instructions on file. So now the mom is furious, but she's also smart. She doesn't blow up right away. She says she's going to follow up with the principal once she's calmed down, because she knows she needs to handle this carefully. But make no mistake, she's not letting this go. And honestly, she shouldn't. So by now, you're probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking. This school completely dropped the ball. And honestly, the Reddit community had a lot to say about it. I mean, a lot. People were fired up. And rightfully so. One person said, look, make sure this is all documented. The school doesn't get to just decide that the mom has to answer. They have to follow the communication orders you gave them. And honestly, I'd threaten a lawsuit if they keep this up and make false CPS reports. And the mom actually responded to that, saying it's all in writing. It's been in writing since the very first day they filled out the paperwork. The only thing she doesn't have in writing is that phone call where the woman claimed she called CPS. Because, that happened over the phone. So no text message, no paper trail. Convenient, right? And get this. Another person said something even stronger. They said refusing to call the other parent just because the front desk woman didn't want to should be grounds for termination. And calling CPS claiming abandonment, that was a straight-up lie. That should also result in termination. And then they added, as a mother, I won't judge you if you end up cussing her out. I mean, you can feel the frustration in that comment, right? Because at some point, how much are you supposed to take? Then there was this other comment that really nailed the legal side of things. They said, oh hell no, your child has two parents. The school has to be unable to reach both parents to claim abandonment, not just unwilling to call dad because of some old school misogyny. And then they said, Mom should be available. What year is it? Honestly, that's the question, isn't it? The mom left clear, specific instructions. She did everything right. And still, the school decided that her instructions didn't matter because she's the mom. It's ridiculous. Another person asked a really smart question. They wanted to know if it's documented that the mom is unavailable for those 3 days, or if the dad is just listed as the primary contact. And the mom said both. Both. He's the primary. She's the secondary with special instructions. And get this, the grandmother is the emergency contact. And they didn't call her either. So the school had 3 people they could have called. 3. They called none of them. They only called the one person who told them not to call. That's not an accident. That's a choice. And here's the comment that really made me think. Someone pointed out that CPS will provide you with a letter to document an investigation, and then another letter to confirm if it was founded or if no evidence was found. So the mom could actually call CPS herself and ask if she's being investigated. And here's the kicker. If the school didn't exhaust all means of contact, CPS is way too overburdened to send someone out to investigate. This whole thing sounds like BS to scare the parents. And the mom agreed. She said there's no way an actual CPS person wouldn't have at least spoken to her husband when he showed up. Whether they really believed it was abandonment or not, they would have said something. They wouldn't have just vanished. So yeah, the community was pretty united on this. The school did everything wrong. The front desk woman was out of line. The mysterious counselor who ran off was suspicious. And the mom absolutely needs to follow up, not just with the principal, but with the district if she has to. And honestly, even with CPS to confirm whether a report was ever actually made. Because here's the thing. The last thing this mom needs is for this to be labeled a mistake or an administrative error later on. Because those kinds of labels have a way of snowballing into something bigger, and if no one pushes back, nothing changes. So the mom took all that advice. She read every comment. And then she did something smart. She didn't just explode. She didn't storm into the school yelling. She took a breath. She gathered her information, and she started making calls, which brings us to the update, because yeah, there's an update. And honestly, it's not as dramatic as some people wanted, but it's still pretty wild, and it answers a lot of the questions we've been asking. So let's get into what actually happened, because spoiler alert, no one actually called CPS. Okay, so here's the truth, and it's still pretty wild. The mom starts by thanking everyone for the support, especially one user who sent her an email template, which, by the way, is really nice when strangers do that. But she didn't go full nuclear. She didn't start with lawyers or threats. She actually called a local family law firm first, just to ask. And the lawyer told her something smart. They said, if you do have to sue later, it looks better if you can show that you tried to exhaust all your options on your own first. So that's what she did. She double-checked everything. The school's documentation, the online portal. And yep, it was all still there. Dad is primary. Mom is secondary with special instructions that she cannot be contacted for anything time-sensitive. Her workplace has an automated answering machine, so even if the school had called her job, she wouldn't get the message for maybe half an hour at best. And she works 30 to 40 minutes away. So even if she got the message immediately, she's still almost an hour out. The dad, home all day, so she sends an email to the principal, and she CCs the superintendent and the school's legal person. She asks for confirmation that they checked the file. She asks for more details about who exactly was spoken to at CPS, any case numbers. And she asks for the name of that woman who was sitting alone with her daughter and then ran off when the dad showed up. But here's where it gets weird. The principal is out of town, family emergency, so a day goes by with no reply. Then the superintendent emails her directly, asks for more details. She sends everything, screenshots of her missed calls, screenshots of her husband's phone showing no calls, screenshots of the grandmother's phone showing no calls. And then Monday comes, the principal is back, and they finally get some answers. Ready for this? No one actually called CPS. There is no case opened against them. That was a straight-up lie. The woman who told the mom she'd called CPS, she had actually called the school's social worker, not CPS. The social worker then sent a counselor to sit with the daughter, not the nurse, because there was no nurse that day, just a counselor. And instead of telling the front desk woman that her threat was ridiculous, the social worker just sent someone. Now, the counselor claims she was only there to keep the daughter company until the parents arrived. Okay, fine. But if that's the case, why didn't she say hello to the dad? Why did she scurry off the second he walked in? You can't just sit with a sick kid for who knows how long and then vanish without a word when a parent shows up. That's not normal. And here's the real kicker. The mom says the principal told her that this is not the first time they've had issues with how this front desk woman responds to fathers or male caregivers in general. Wait, what? So this is a pattern, and nobody did anything about it before. How does that happen? As of the update, that front desk woman has been suspended pending an investigation. Finally, right. But the mom admits this isn't the super dramatic update some people wanted. She didn't sue the school. She didn't get the woman fired on the spot. She just got the truth. No CPS, a counselor who won't make eye contact, and a suspended employee with a history of problems with dads. Honestly, I'm relieved there's no CPS case, but annoyed that it took all of this just to get a simple admission that the school messed up, and that a kid was left scared in a nurse's office while adults played weird power games. All right, so that first story had kind of a frustrating ending, but this next one, buckle up, because it goes from bad to worse to absolutely nuclear. This post comes from the the A-hole subreddit, and it's written by a 55-year-old dad. He has 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son. The son is the oldest, and up until recently, this dad thought his son was a decent man, a good husband, a good father, someone you'd be proud of. Yeah, no. His daughter-in-law, let's call her Tessa, recently filed for divorce. And she didn't just file quietly. She made a social media post with pictures, screenshots of text messages, video recordings of voicemails. And she laid out exactly why she was leaving. Ready for this? The son cheated on her multiple times. And not just cheated, he gave her an STD. Wait, what? So the dad sees all of this. He's shocked. He's disgusted. He goes to confront his son, and his son's response. He says Tessa is over-exaggerating. And then he says the only reason he cheated was because she wasn't, and I quote, putting out. Here's where it gets worse. Tessa gave birth to their second child just 7 months ago. Their first child is 3 years old. So she's at home with 2 young kids, recovering from childbirth, and her husband is out there cheating and bringing home. And then he blames her for it. The dad apologizes to Tessa. He tells her she didn't deserve any of this. Then he turns around and just unloads on his son. He doesn't hold back. He yells at him. He tells him how selfish and cruel he's being. He doesn't downplay his disappointment at all. But then his wife steps in, the mom, and she starts defending their son. Yeah, defending him. The dad remembers how hard it was when his wife had their second daughter, the postpartum recovery, the exhaustion. And he cannot believe that his wife has 0 sympathy for Tessa. 0. He says Tessa is a sweet, smart person who didn't deserve any of this. And his wife is just letting their son stay in the house, feeding him, supporting him, saying he needs their help. The dad says no. He needs a hard lesson, and they fight about this constantly. Then the son does something that makes the dad see red. The son accuses Tessa of getting the STD from someone else. And then he demands a paternity test for his own kids, because obviously if she got an STD, it must be her fault, right? Unbelievable. The dad loses it. He yells at his son again. And again, the mom comes to the son's defense. She says, and I quote, "A man has every right to know if his kids are his." Now here's where the dad snaps. He looks at his wife, and he says, fine. Then I want a paternity test too, for our son. Prove he's mine. The wife is offended, shocked even, how dare he? But the dad doesn't back down. He moves out of the house. And then his wife and son start sending people after him, lying about what happened, overplaying what things were like at home. The dad gets tired of defending himself. He's about to just let things settle. And then they cross a line. They contact his job, and they make hurtful accusations about a female employee that he's been mentoring for the past year. They imply something inappropriate, something that could destroy his career. And not just his career, this young woman's reputation too. That's when the dad snaps completely. He's filing for divorce. The house is paid off, so he's willing to let her have it. But until a judge says otherwise, he stops putting money into any account she has access to. He leaves just one credit card with a $4,000 limit so she can buy groceries and gas. And he changes his main beneficiaries to his daughters. Then he tells his son something. If you want a single cent of my money, you will take a DNA test. Prove you're my son. The son eventually does it. And guess what? He passes. He's definitely the dad's biological son. So the dad sends him an email, acknowledges that yes, you are my son. And then he attaches a copy of his newly updated will, where his son will receive exactly 10% of his assets. 10%. His daughters get the rest. Now the wife and son are demanding a public apology. They say he owes them. And the dad is asking Reddit, am I the a-hole for not apologizing? Spoiler alert. Reddit has thoughts. So the son takes the test. He passes. Big surprise, right? But here's the thing. The dad doesn't just roll over and forgive everyone. No, he updates his will. Son gets 10%, daughters get the rest. And then he waits. But remember what the wife and son did. They called his job. They made those awful accusations about him and the young woman he was mentoring. And here's the calmer part. That young woman, she's leaving the company. And she's suing the dad's wife for defamation. Yeah, you heard that right. The mentee talked to HR. The company investigated, and they cleared the dad of any wrongdoing. But here's the problem. Even though HR said he did nothing wrong, the damage was already done. People in the office give him dirty looks now. Coworkers keep their distance. The rumor stuck, even though it was a complete lie. So the dad is also being pushed to leave. Not fired, but you know how that goes. Once the stink is there, it doesn't wash off. So the dad gets a lawyer. And the lawyer feels confident because there's evidence of the wife's blatant attempt to sabotage his reputation at work. The lawyer thinks he can give the wife a lump settlement instead of paying alimony, which is huge. And the lawyer also tells him something else. Do not just give her the house, sell it, split the profits. So now he's back in the house, per his lawyer's advice. And he says it's pretty miserable. His wife is there. His son is probably lurking around. He admits he's drinking a lot more than he used to, just trying to hang on. It's summer, right? Because even when you're in the right, it still hurts. Your marriage is ending. Your son betrayed you. Your wife tried to destroy your career. But then there's a small bit of hope. He has some hard but honest conversations with his daughters, and he comes to accept something difficult. He failed as a father in some ways, not in the big, obvious ways. He showed up to school events. He spent time with them, but he let his wife do most of the actual parenting, and she favored their son. Always did. He just never really paid attention. And his daughters never felt like they could talk to him about it, until now. But here's the good part. They're still willing to have a relationship with him, and they're on his side with the divorce. That's not nothing. That's actually huge. He hasn't spoken much to Tessa, his daughter-in-law, but she did send him a thank you text for standing up for her, for believing her, for not making excuses for his son. So at least there's that. Look, this story doesn't have a perfect Hollywood ending. The dad's life is kind of a mess right now. His wife is suable. His son is basically dead to him. His career is damaged, but he's learning. He's taking responsibility for what he did wrong. He's trying to do better by his daughters, and he's not backing down. And honestly, sometimes that's the best you can do. But okay, after all that heavy stuff, we need something a little lighter. Something that'll make you laugh. Because trust me, the next story, it's ridiculous. It involves a hotel, a broken hot water tap, and a boss who really should have just called a plumber. Okay, we need a palate cleanser after that mess. And trust me, this next story is exactly that. It's from the malicious compliance subreddit. And it's about a guy who worked at a hotel in the UK as a lobby boy. His job was simple: handle guest requests. Extra pillows, blankets, basic stuff. The system was old school. Guests would tell reception. Reception would write the request in a notebook. For example, room 212 pillow. Then the lobby boy would check the book every so often, solve the problems, and tick them off. Easy, right? One night during dinner, the hotel boss writes a note in the book. Room 304 hot water tap is not working. So the lobby boy goes to the room, checks the tap. Yep, not working. He goes back to the book and writes, can't fix it, call a plumber. Seems reasonable. He's a lobby boy, not a plumber. On his next round, he checks the book again. There's a new message from the boss. Fix it now. Underlined 3 times. 3 times. So the guy goes back to room 304, checks the hot water tap again. Now remember, this is the UK. Sinks have 2 separate taps, one for cold, one for hot. He looks at it, tries a few things. Still can't fix it. And then the pipe pops out. The one from the wall to the sink just comes loose. And boiling hot water starts pouring onto the bathroom floor at full force. Full pressure, scalding hot, panic mode, immediate panic. He grabs the room phone, calls reception. Busy. Of course it's busy, so he sprints through the hotel. The room is on the farthest side. He's running, jumps into reception and shouts, room 304, plumber now. Then he sprints back. The water is still gushing, full force. The floor is flooding, so he does the only thing he can think of. He sits on the edge of the bathtub, and he holds the pipe so the water pours into the tub instead of onto the floor. Imagine that. A guy just sitting there holding a gushing pipe waiting. 3 minutes later, the hotel boss peeks into the room, goes completely pale, and runs away. Doesn't help, doesn't call anyone, just runs. 5 more minutes pass. Then the fire alarms go off. The steam from all that hot water set them off. Fortunately, the staff already knew what was happening, so they told the guests it was a false alarm. No evacuation. Good thinking. Another 10 minutes pass. 15 minutes total of water gushing. Finally, someone shuts off the water supply for the entire wing of the hotel. A plumber arrives, fixes the tap in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Now comes the fun part, cleaning. Surprisingly, there wasn't much water in the bathroom, considering it had been gushing for 15 minutes. Where did all that water go? He goes 1 floor lower, enters the room directly below, switches on the bathroom light. It's very dim, and then he realizes why. The light fixture in the ceiling is a B-shaped lamp cover, and it's completely filled with water. The light bulb is just sitting there, happily glowing, underwater. Oh crap, light off. He drains the water from the lamp cover, mops up that bathroom too, but still it doesn't seem like enough water. So he goes even lower, ground floor. Below that bathroom is a corridor, not another room luckily, but the ceiling has gotten so wet that it collapsed. A 2 to 3 meter section just crashed down onto the carpet. So now he's cleaning up debris, mopping, steaming. 15 minutes in a sauna-like bathroom. 30 minutes of cleaning and clearing rubble. Finally, he steps outside for some fresh air. He's exhausted, steamed, probably smells weird. His roommate walks past, takes one look at him, and asks, did someone puke on you? Perfect. Since that day, whenever he says he can't fix something, they actually believe him and call a professional. That, my friends, is malicious compliance at its finest. And that's it for today's stories. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out to the end. If you made it this far, you clearly enjoy these wild stories. So seriously, go check out another one on the screen or save it for later. And hey, if you want more of this kind of thing, maybe hit that subscribe button. No pressure, just a friendly suggestion. Either way, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.